A home base is a starting point, the place you return to without thinking whether it's ideal, the place that just is. When that's missing, something shifts in how you experience the world, and thinkers noticed this long before modern mobility made it common. Stoic writers spoke about oikiosis, the process by which something slowly becomes yours, not through preference or pleasure, but through attachment over time. Home, in that sense, isn't chosen, it forms, slowly. Buddhism treats this carefully. Connection matters, but clinging to a fixed idea of where you should be is what produces suffering. Not because place doesn't matter, but because the need for it to be permanent does. Modern psychology arrives at something similar, though from a different direction. It often frames belonging as emotional support, but it's also logistical. Family provides a default, a home base you return to without asking whether it's ideal. When that home base is missing, the luxury of choice becomes exhausting. Nothing pulls strongly enough to make the answer obvious. When you grow up somewhere, you don't build a home base, you absorb one. The school run, the corner shop, the way people queue, the local slang, the jokes that need no explanation, the unspoken rules of how people greet each other. You don't learn any of it consciously. It just becomes you. Then you move. Suddenly, everything that was invisible becomes visible. Things that never required thought now require effort. The humor that doesn't quite land. The friendships that stay surface level longer than feels normal. The sense of watching from slightly outside, understanding what's happening, but not quite belonging to it. That's exhausting in a way that's hard to explain to people who haven't experienced it. For a teenager, it's even harder, because that's precisely when identity is forming. You're not just losing a place, you're losing the environment that was telling you who you are. The irony is that nobody realizes how deeply rooted they were until they leave. That's the nature of unconscious belonging. You can't see it while you're inside it. Immigrant parents often feel this most acutely. Moving back and forth, one foot in the new country, one foot in the old one. Over time, neither fully feels like home. The country they left has moved on without them. The new one never fully accepted them. They know both places and belong completely to neither. For many of them, children become the answer to that. Not a solution to belonging, but an anchor, a reason to stop moving, a place to orient around. Which is why, until recently, the question of home base and the question of children were never really separate. Having children was once not a decision at all. It was an outcome. Contraception was limited or non-existent, social expectations strong, and adult life followed a narrow set of rules. Men worked trades or the land. Women ran the home and raised children. You married, and children arrived. Your home base was decided when you were born. Were they happier? It's impossible to know. Happiness wasn't measured, and the concept itself meant something different. Less about personal fulfillment, more about survival, duty, community. The question probably wouldn't have made much sense to them. What research in the 20th century did begin to show is more complicated. Studies consistently found that raising children is stressful, time-consuming, and often linked to lower day-to-day happiness during the intensive years. Yet, older adults with children tend to describe something different. A stronger sense of continuity, of having a place in something larger than themselves. Today, the equation is different. People delay or avoid children for understandable reasons. Career, cost of living, housing instability, uncertainty about the future. Choice has expanded.
Parenthood is weighed against other forms of fulfillment rather than assumed. And because it is a choice, it carries a different psychological weight. What's harder to measure is what disappears when children become optional. Not happiness exactly, but a kind of built-in future. School runs, holidays, family gatherings, somewhere to go at Christmas. A structure that used to organize adult life without anyone having to plan it. The question isn't whether life was better then. It probably wasn't. But people didn't have to figure out what their life was supposed to look like. It was already laid out. In many languages, there's a word that doesn't translate cleanly into English. The small, immediate family that life organizes itself around. One or two parents, one or more children. Not extended family, but the center. When you're young, your parents are your family nucleus. That's where home is. Then, two people meet. They form a couple, a new family nucleus. It doesn't erase the parents, but it becomes separate from them. Decisions start to be made around this new unit. When children arrive, the center shifts again. The parents and the children now form the family nucleus.
This is the group that determines where home is, where people return to, and what matters most day to day. In many Western countries, that nucleus stays small. Grandparents usually live elsewhere. They matter, but they're outside the center. They don't organize daily life. In many other cultures, the nucleus is larger. When families move from another country, grandparents often come too, or stay closely involved. They look after the children. Sometimes an uncle or aunt is part of daily life. The family nucleus is wider, sometimes twice as big, and more stable. That difference matters. A larger nucleus carries more weight. It makes home clearer. It makes movement easier to survive. And it changes how belonging is felt over time. Some people choose not to have children, not because circumstances prevented it, but because it wasn't the life they wanted. That's a legitimate choice. But it comes with a consequence that isn't always anticipated. When you have children, your home base shifts. It moves toward them. Gatherings form around them. Holidays, visits, returns, they organize themselves. You don't have to decide where the center is. The center finds you. Without that, the home base doesn't shift. It stays wherever it last was, or slowly fades. If extended family bonds are strong, that can be enough. But when those bonds are distant or complicated, the question reopens. Where exactly is home? Who does it organize around? Family is often described at the extremes: conflict, distance, obligation. Less often about something simpler. Even strained family ties still function as a center of gravity. You may dislike certain people, avoid certain conversations, carry old frustrations. Yet the place itself remains fixed in the mind as somewhere you return to without negotiation. Without children and without strong extended family, that fixed point can disappear. Decisions become comparative rather than instinctive. One place is milder, another has more friends. One feels practical, another feels uncertain. Each option can be justified, but none feel inevitable. It's striking how quickly those calculations disappear when family enters the picture. People move to cold places without hesitation. They accept inconvenience without debate. Family doesn't make the place better, it makes the choice simpler. What's missing then isn't warmth or affection, it's direction. Without it, the question of where to be becomes less about desire and more about weighing possibilities that never quite settle. In turn, people look elsewhere. They build something different. Friends become closer. Community fills some of the space. Volunteering, shared interests, chosen connections. A different kind of home base forms. Less assumed, more constructed. For many people, it works. Until it doesn't. People often say, "You're like family." It's usually meant kindly. It points to closeness, trust, shared time. But it isn't the same thing. The difference usually only shows up when something goes wrong. With friends, the connection exists because both people continue to choose it. When a relationship breaks, that choice can quietly end. With family, it doesn't work that way. When there's conflict, people often feel they have to take a side, even if the situation doesn't involve them directly. This is why someone can have a good, even close relationship with a person and still stop speaking to them because of something that happened within the family. Not because of personal harm, but because loyalty shifts automatically. It isn't thought through, it just happens. Sometimes one person will stay in contact and another won't. From the outside, that can feel confusing or unfair. The difference usually isn't about who is kinder or more reasonable. It's about how strongly someone feels tied to the family line and whether they feel able to go against it. This is what people mean, often without realizing it, when they say family is different. Not better, not warmer, just different. When pressure appears, that difference becomes impossible to ignore. For many people, that realization doesn't lead to bitterness. It leads to adjustment. Connection gets built differently, through activity rather than permanence. Volunteering, projects, routines, interests. These things don't replace family, but they occupy space. They give shape to the days. Friends come and go. Some drift. Some die. New ones appear. Over time, the expectation shifts. Connection becomes something that forms and loosens rather than something that holds. The absence of a home base doesn't make life impossible. People adapt, build, connect. But it does change something quietly. The ease of knowing where you belong. That ease, once gone, is harder to replace than anyone expects.